He was born with everything and lost it all, then built it back bigger, then lost it again, then came back even bigger, then ran for president, and the whole world laughed. Then he won. This is not a story about politics. This is a story about one of the most relentless, controversial, and undeniable forces in the history of American business and power. A man who turned his name into a billion-dollar brand, who walked through bankruptcy with a smirk, who fired people on national television and made them beg to work for him. Love him or hate him, and most people have very strong feelings either way. You cannot ignore what Donald Trump built, how he built it, and the almost impossible story of how he kept rising every single time the world tried to bury him. This is the rise, the fall, the comeback, and the return of Donald Trump. Queens, New York, 1946. Most people who grow up wealthy stay quietly wealthy. They inherit the money, protect the money, and live comfortable, invisible lives. Donald John Trump was never going to be that kind of person. His father, Fred Trump, was a self-made real estate developer, tough, disciplined, and deeply practical. Fred built affordable housing in Brooklyn and Queens. He was not glamorous, he was not flashy, he was a builder, in the truest sense of the word. And he wanted his son to be the same. But Donald was different from the start. He was loud, competitive, and almost allergic to losing. In school, he was so aggressive and difficult that his parents enrolled him at the New York Military Academy at age 13. Not because he was a bad kid, but because his energy needed a container that could hold it. Military school did something unexpected to young Donald. It gave him structure, discipline, and, crucially, a taste for competition that could be measured. He excelled. He became a star athlete. He discovered that when the rules of the game were clear, he could dominate it. After 2 years at Fordham University, he transferred to the Wharton School of Finance at the University of Pennsylvania, one of the most prestigious business programs in the United States. He was already thinking bigger than Queens. But here's where the story gets interesting. While other Wharton graduates went to Wall Street to work for someone else, Trump went home, back to his father's company, back to the business of building things. He had a plan that went far beyond affordable housing in Brooklyn. He wanted Manhattan. In the early 1970s, Manhattan real estate was in serious trouble. New York City was broke, crime was rampant, and the glamorous blocks of Midtown were rotting from the inside out. Serious investors were running away. Donald Trump was running toward it. He looked at the Commodore Hotel, a decaying wreck next to Grand Central Station, and saw something no one else could see. He saw what it could become. At 27 years old, with no track record in Manhattan, no major relationships in the city's power circles, and no guarantee of success, Trump negotiated one of the most aggressive tax abatement deals in New York City history. He partnered with the Hyatt Corporation, secured financing from a major bank, and transformed the Commodore into the Grand Hyatt New York, a gleaming, glass-covered tower that became an immediate symbol of the city's revival. The deal made him. Overnight, Donald Trump was not a builder from Queens, he was a Manhattan player. He followed the Grand Hyatt with Trump Tower on Fifth Avenue, the building that would define his image for the next 4 decades. Glass, gold, and marble, atrium retail, celebrity tenants. His own penthouse 3 floors above the top floor with gold-plated fixtures and a view of Central Park that made visitors gasp. Trump Tower was not just a building, it was a declaration. It said, "I am here, I have arrived, and I am not leaving." Through the 1980s, Trump built casino complexes in Atlantic City, bought the Plaza Hotel, purchased a yacht he named Trump Princess, and acquired an airline, Trump Shuttle, that flew between New York, Boston, and Washington, D.C. His name appeared on buildings, on planes, on helicopters. He wrote a book called The Art of the Deal in 1987. It became one of the best-selling business books in American history. His face was on magazine covers. His name was in every newspaper. He was the symbol of American ambition, the living proof that if you were bold enough, smart enough, and relentless enough, the world would give you everything. And then it all collapsed. By 1990, Donald Trump was roughly $900 million in personal debt, and his empire was on the edge of total destruction. The casino business had overexpanded. The airline was hemorrhaging cash. The Plaza Hotel was losing money. Interest rates had risen, real estate values had crashed, and the banks that had been eager to lend to him now wanted their money back. Money he did not have. Most people in that position disappear. They quietly settle with creditors, liquidate their assets, and spend the rest of their lives explaining why it went wrong. Trump refused. What happened next is one of the most unusual chapters in American financial history. The banks, the very institutions that had every legal right to destroy him, chose not to. Because they realized something chilling. Donald Trump alive and negotiating was worth more than Donald Trump bankrupt. His name, his brand, his ability to draw attention and tenants, all of it had value that would evaporate the moment he was declared insolvent. So they restructured his debt. They gave him time. They essentially kept him alive because killing him was too expensive. By the mid-1990s, Trump had fought his way back. The casinos were still troubled. He would file for corporate bankruptcy multiple times over the following years. But his personal fortune had recovered. He was rebuilding, deal by deal, project by project. And then, in 2004, everything changed again. But this time, it changed in a way no one expected. NBC came to Donald Trump with an idea for a reality television show. The concept was simple. Put 16 ambitious young people in a room, give them business challenges, and let Trump eliminate them one by one until only one remained. They called it The Apprentice. The show debuted in January 2004. 28 million Americans watched the first episode. The phrase, "You're fired, class," delivered by Trump with a cold, pointing finger, became the most recognizable moment on television. The Apprentice ran for 14 seasons. It made Trump a household name in a way that buildings and books never could, because it reached people who had never set foot in New York and never read a business book in their lives. But The Apprentice did something far more powerful than make Trump famous. It rewrote the story of who he was. After years of bankruptcy headlines and tabloid drama, the show presented Trump as the ultimate authority on business, the wise, decisive executive who could spot a winner and crush a failure with a single word. It was brand reconstruction at a scale that money alone cannot buy. He used the momentum to license his name aggressively. Trump Hotels, Trump Golf, Trump Steaks, Trump University, Trump Vodka. The name became the product. You were not buying a hotel, you were buying the idea of Trump. Gold, power, winning. By 2015, Trump was worth billions. His brand alone was valued at hundreds of millions of dollars. He had come back from near total destruction to build something more valuable than what he had before, because what he had built this time could not be seized by a bank. It lived in people's minds. On June 16, 2015, Donald Trump rode a golden escalator down into the lobby of Trump Tower and announced he was running for president of the United States. The political world laughed. Commentators gave him a 2% chance of winning the Republican nomination. Established politicians dismissed him. The media covered him as entertainment, as a spectacle, not a serious candidate. His campaign was predicted to collapse within months. He won the Republican nomination in a landslide. On November 8, 2016, Donald Trump defeated Hillary Clinton, one of the most experienced and well-funded candidates in the history of American presidential politics, and became the 45th president of the United States. It was one of the most stunning political upsets in recorded history. His presidency was unlike anything American politics had ever seen, a relentless stream of controversy, policy battles, trade wars, a global pandemic, 2 impeachments, and a style of communication, direct, combative, unfiltered, that broke every rule of presidential decorum and connected with tens of millions of Americans who felt the old rules had failed them. He left office in January 2021, facing the gravest legal and political challenges of his life. Investigations, indictments, a movement to bar him from running for office ever again. And then, because this is Donald Trump, he came back. In November 2024, Donald Trump won the presidential election again, defeating his opponent to become the 47th president of the United States, the first person in American history to win the presidency, lose it, and win it back. What do you take from a story like this? Not that bankruptcy is fine, not that controversy doesn't matter, not that rules don't apply to you. What you take is something simpler and more unsettling. The people who change the world are almost never the people who play it safe. They're the ones who decide, at some point, usually early, that the cost of being small is higher than the cost of being wrong. Donald Trump has been wrong many times. He has failed spectacularly, publicly, and expensively. He has been mocked, investigated, and written off more times than almost any public figure in modern history, and he is still standing. Whether you see him as a genius or a cautionary tale, as a hero or a villain, the one thing you cannot call him is finished. Because every time the world decided he was finished, he proved it wrong. And that, whatever else you think about the man, is a lesson worth understanding.